Can I have your attention here? We are going to start this January 19th special meeting of the County Council. We'll start off with roll call.
Councilman Swanson.
Here.
Councilman Brazel. Here. Councilman Elam.
Here.
Councilman Hollander.
Here.
Councilman Hammond. Councilwoman Schneider.
Yeah, here.
Councilman Baker.
Here.
Okay. I believe we'll begin the meeting with public comment. If there's anyone here that would like to come forward, please do so.
Arnie Dienoff.
Mr. Dienoff?
No pledge or anything? No.
This is not really a council.
I thought, Mr. Chairman, we'd do the Pledge of Allegiance first.
We certainly can.
Do you think that's appropriate?
Let's stand up and do
Okay.
that. I did not see it on the thing, but we will do that. Okay. Please stand. I pledge allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you, members of the County Council. My name is Arnie C. A.C. Dienoff, County Public Advocate. The word I phrase today's proposed tax increase is greediness. Again, we as citizens face more taxes, taking more of St. Charles Countyans' money. The power of politicians goes to some of your heads. Control over people, access to decision-making for people, greed, and of the core, money. The old mighty dollar rules all. Always having your hand out. In my opinion, this council, most of this council, are Democrats in disguise with your hands out for an opportunity to capitalize and get even more of our money. There's a cap of 3% for the local level and a cap of 3% for the county and 6% for the state for a maximum of 12%. Now, somebody proposes another additional 1.75% on the ballot. That'd be illegal, and I would create a legal challenge in county circuit court. We have record-setting sales tax revenues, month after month after month, quarter after quarter after quarter. I'd like you to say no to any new taxes, no to any new money grabs, and it's a windfall for the county once again. No to any money-related opportunities. Learn to work within the current constraints of the current budget and the revenue streams. If you pass this tax and it goes on the ballot and the voters vote it in April, citizens will avoid the proposed tax. They'll grow their own plants, now allowable under state law, up to 6 plants, buy from the underground, avoiding all taxes, crop sharing with friends, order through the mail, get a supply from other states which have less taxes, which opens the door for illegal operations and illegal transportation over state lines. 50% of every county household in St. Charles County pays taxes and fees at the federal, state, county, municipal, and numerous special district and political subdivisions. Families of St. Charles County don't start paying themselves until July 15th, and that's really sad for being a conservative Republican county that we are. It's sickening and disgusting, the power and control that you have over us in terms of taxes. It's time to draw a firm and solid, clear line in the sand of no new taxes. Stop and have the guts to say no to Uncle Steve and Aunt Joanne for proposing this tax increase to St. Charles Countyans once again. I'm a solid no in telling all my fellow county residents to vote no and to balk at this new tax. If we say yes this time, when will it stop? Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else that would like to speak during public comment? Okay. Seeing none, we will move to, I need a motion to remove the tabled bill.
So moved?
Do I have a second? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. At this point here, we had the original bill that was introduced, and then Nancy introduced a substitute bill which we had not actually voted on. So at this point, we will pick up the discussion with the substitute bill, And just to remind you folks, the substitute bill is basically just saying that the ordinance will provide for an authorization of an additional sales tax in an amount of 3% on retail sales of adult use recreational marijuana to be placed on the ballot April the 4th, 2023 for the vote of the people. So that's what we are actually in discussion of right now. Okay? All right. Do I have any comments at this point? Mr. Brazel?
Talking to some of the council members and stuff, I sent you guys out talking points. It was just to get started with the conversation. And from my perspective is we have talked about doing a Proposition P for police and for safety. And so I would not support an additional tax for Proposition P. And I don't support taxes in general at all, because I think we pay too much in taxes to begin with. However, I do believe in a use tax on marijuana because we pay taxes on alcohol, cigarettes, and every other sin tax. So I think it's an opportunity for us to, instead of doing a Proposition P, doing some sort of allotment for law enforcement, for the police department, sheriff's department, corrections, and maybe add the prosecutor's office in that as well. What I put out to you guys was a talking point of 20%, 20, 20, 20, and 20, and then the last 20 to go in the general fund. But what that meant was we have a sheet here. I don't know, Donna, if you put that out to everybody, but my idea was, this is just like, again, an idea, is it would be relative to the gross budget of each department. So the police department, let's say, is 21 million. The sheriff's department, I think, is 6.2 million. And I think corrections is 19 million, and these are just off the top of my head, and prosecutor's office is about 6 million. So the 20%, this is just a starting point. Again, maybe you guys don't like the idea at all, but it would be relative to the gross amount of the budget, not 20% even. Like if it's 10 million, you want to get 2, 2, 2, and 2, 2 million. It would be relative to that gross budget. So whatever that would be. So someone who's smarter than me would have to do the math to say the sheriff's or the police department, since it's 21 million, would get 35% of that 80%, and then the prosecutors would get like 5%, whatever those numbers are, or it's all relative. And then I know that some of the council members suggested that 80% is too high, and it's worth a conversation. But I think that with some of the stuff we got going on, we had put in place resource officers with CARES Act money, which I think you got a number on that, Donna?
It's red, it's in red on your paper,
And
bolded.
what paper is it on? Anyway, you guys understand that that was funded for 1 year, right, guys? And so we got to have funding.
2 years.
Yeah, it's funded for 2 with the possibility of a third.
2 years, okay, so there will be this is also an where's that, Donna?
I don't see it, it might be on my desk.
That's all right. So the idea was we're going to have funding issues for that when that comes up. So, and then we also have our vacancies, 38% in corrections and 34% emergency communications. And so we still have vacancies, which, how do we get that up? I know we did I think the salary increases were very important, but I think that we need to have more training for the police. The police is, I think their training budget comes out of forfeiture, and I think it's been going down, hasn't it, Joanne, been going down yearly?
It's out of forfeiture and general fund and some other grants that we get,
So,
depending on what area.
I know I got that email today, it might have been too late. Is the training fund been, it's on a graph, it's been going down every year, right?
Well, the forfeiture fund goes up and down. It's been down lately because we haven't really had the personnel to do interdiction. But in general, our overall training budget has not been declining. And if you sent me that, I apologize, Councilman, I didn't see it, that you asked for that.
I don't know, Donna, I didn't send it, Donna, I think sent it, but that's okay. I mean, we're just trying to collect information on some of the voids that we're gonna see in the future. And so if the county council is talking about a Proposition P, I will publicly say I will not support that because this is a golden opportunity to put something like that in place. My numbers again are for talking points. Maybe it's too high, I don't know. But that's my thoughts on it.
Mr.
County
Chairman.
Executive, yes.
Yeah, may I inquire, Mr. Brazel?
Sure.
Yeah, Joe, I think you're right to anticipate, what you're talking about anticipating some of these things, but I think you're making the opposite point, because the fact is, and you know this better than anybody else because you've been around longer, every year is a little bit different. If we got somebody, one of our representatives in Jefferson City been trying for 3 years to do away with forfeiture, and I'm sure he's going to try again this year, and I don't know if he'll succeed, but if he did, that would put a big hole in our budget, and we'd end up using probably most of this money to fill that hole. And you're right, it's not going to be 1 year, but in 3 years, we're going to have to find money for the SROs. And again, maybe more of that might have to come. I mean, we're getting, they're talking about additional additional judges over there, and if we do that, we're going to have to spend money building courtrooms and hiring sheriff's deputies to be bailiffs. So the fact of the matter is, every year, we're going to have something like that. And the one that you forgot to mention that's going to come up is, remember when we we got rid of the windfall on the personal property tax? That meant that Alarm Dispatch and Road Board are going to get the same amount of money for the next 2 years. Now, their expenses are going to go up, and we're going to have to find something in the budget to replace that. But all those things aside, if you remember 2 meetings ago, all of us basically pledged to everybody out here and all of our employees that when we do the budget next year and the year after and the year after, the first thing we're going to do is take 2% so that we can guarantee that everybody will get a raise. So, in terms of, y'all can obviously do what you want on this, but my advice would be not to tie your hands. But if you are going to tie your hands and use it for one thing, that's the one thing all of us agree on, that we're going to do that 2%. This would be a way to show good faith to the employees that in putting that 2% together, the first money we're going to take is this marijuana money, and then whatever else we need to get to the 2%. And if we have that, there's obviously then going to be more general funds available for all those other people you want to help. And if you do that, though, my advice would be don't send it to the voters, because if they adopt it, if something emergency does come up and we need that money for something else, we'd have to go back to the voters and ask them.
Yeah.
If you want to make sure that for now anyway, that money's going to be used for that 2%, just put it in the ordinance and say if this passes and this money comes in, it's going to go into a fund, and that money is going to automatically go to that 2% for as long as that ordinance stays in effect. And hopefully we can keep it in effect for forever. But if we get an emergency, then 4 of you could decide, well, no, we need that money for something else, and we could take care of it. So that's all I have to add to it. I think you're thinking the right thoughts, but I think you're not thinking about all the things that we could be confronted with the next year and the year after.
Yes, Mr. Swanson.
So,
I'm sorry, Joe.
Councilman Brazel, what was your breakdown again that you had? Because I don't have an email from you.
Donna, did you not make a copy of that?
I made the copy of these talking points that you asked.
Oh, okay, that's fine. For just the talking points, it was 20%, 20%. It would be police department, sheriff's department, corrections, prosecutors, and then general funds. So it would be 20%, which makes 100%, but it'd be relative to the gross budget of each department. So the police department's 21 million, corrections is 19 million, the prosecutor's office is 6.2, and sheriff's is 6.2, Scott? 5? So it would be relative, it wouldn't be.
To their numbers.
To their numbers, yeah.
Because looking at the other information that you gave us from Colorado, this was published on July 19th, 2021. It stated that they have 2,700 licensed marijuana businesses that totaled $387 million of revenue in 2020 for Colorado. So if we take that $387 million divided by the 2,700, that comes down to $143,333 per dispensary. Multiply that by 4, which is what we would have for St. Charles County, comes out to $573,333. And if we're going to take that $573,333 and divide it by 5, that number is getting real small real quick. Mm-hmm. And not knowing what is going to be coming in, this sounds great. I love what you're thinking here with the 20-20-20 across for the 5 departments, but we don't have a knowledge of what that dollar amount is yet. And that is my big fear of what will the dollar amount come in. If it comes in at a great high number, let's put it in an ordinance and make it happen. But because everything's paid 1 year later, we've got plenty of time to see what the numbers will be. And I do believe we will be getting quarterly reports as that's coming in to show the projected amounts. Is that correct, staff?
That information comes in monthly, actually. Once the tax is established and collections begin, we get the numbers monthly.
So within 6 months, we're going to have a good idea. And I would love to be able to bring this back and do an ordinance of exactly what you're saying. I think you're on the right path for it to see moving forward. But I'm just curious what the dollar amounts are going to be.
Can you put it in, just a question to Roy, if what he's saying is true, which is true, I mean, but can you, if it goes to the voters where it states that this money goes into general fund, can you do an ordinance after the fact if it went to the voters to the council say, we want this money to go here? Can we do that, or doesn't it have to be in a voting language?
The ballot language right now in the substitute that you all are considering does not specify where the money goes to. So you, as the council after the fact, if this is authorized, can decide how that money is spent.
Special fund.
Sure, you can decide how the money is spent once it comes in. If you, in the alternative, if you say to the voters, if you pass this or if you authorize this tax, then it has to be spent on X, Y, and Z, then you're limited to only spending it on X, Y, and Z in the future.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
So, does staff know how many dispensaries that we have in St. Charles County? So we have 4. So,
I thought that's the number you said, I thought.
When I looked up the state of Missouri, the Department of Health, they have, I think, 14 registered
in St. Charles?
in St. Charles County in its entirety, so that includes the incorporated municipalities.
Okay. Correct me if I'm wrong, but this tax that we're collecting would only be on recreational marijuana purchases. So if you have a medical marijuana card, this tax does not apply to you, correct?
Yes, sir.
So the only people who are going to be paying this tax at the between 4 and 14 dispensaries in our county are the people who are going to be buying recreational. To Mr. Swanson's point, I don't think this is going to be a lot of money. I think this is going to be thousands, not tens of thousands, that you're going to get a year. I do not think this is going to be a windfall of this. I think, to Mr. Dienoff's point, if you learn the rules and you're someone who uses a marijuana product on a regular basis, why you wouldn't get a medical marijuana card and just bypass all the taxes is beyond me. You can grow, I believe is it 6 plants that you're allowed to have? 2 flowering at any given time, but you can have up to 6. The sheriff's here, I should have asked him. So you can grow this at home if you want. The amount of money that we're talking about here is really small. I don't think it's going to pay for anybody's raises. I don't think it'll even pay for your ammunition cost, much less for anything else. So whatever the council wants to do with this, I'm open to any idea. I think this is a lot of talk about very little money that is going to go to anything, and I'm open for whatever of putting this on the ballot and letting the voters decide if they even want to do the tax. At the end of the day, the voters have the ones who get to decide if we ever going to do the 3%. But I will be seriously surprised. I will be shocked and publicly apologize to all of you if this turns out to be more than $15,000 a year total revenue that we get from this entire tax. It'll be more than 15,000, I think. Well, Tim smokes a lot, but I'm just kidding. That was a joke.
Just a Baker household.
Just a joke.
Can I, Terry?
Yes, sure.
So,
Mr. Baker, your turn.
do we have a 4 or 14? So you're saying 14, we don't get anything off the incorporated? Yeah, we do. Oh, we do?
It's county on all county-like dispensaries.
The way that the amendment, the way the amendment is written, it is.
So that may be a little bit more than $15,000, but.
Well, but remember, it's only recreational purchases. So
Yeah.
anything that has a medical marijuana card, And people who buy on a regular basis are probably going to have a medical marijuana card, which is going to make them exempt from this 3%
They will
tax.
do that if they think that, I mean, the license is about $120 to get for the medical. So if people think that they're gonna spend more than $120 on taxes, yeah, they're gonna get their card. But I see a lot of people not doing that, but that's just my opinion. But I agree with Councilman Swanson. I'd like to wait to see exactly how much money we're talking about. I would love to give it to the police and corrections, but let's not tie our hands at this point. I mean, if it's $5 million, well, we got to have a serious discussion what we're going to do with that money and not just hold our hands on where that money goes to now. That's my opinion.
Yes.
Just to be clear, I don't disagree with anything you guys are saying. The reason me and Terry were talking about is he had asked me about a Proposition P.
Right.
And I just want to be clear that you guys can do what you want, but I won't support an additional tax of something of that nature. That's why when this opportunity came up, I just wanted to, because I didn't feel like when Nancy had the substitute bill that we had quite enough time to really have conversation over it. And I think that's why this is important to at least have this, to, you know, and so if you guys, if that's what, I mean, Mike, you're probably right. I mean, it may not be a lot of money, but if in case it was, I think you're right, Tim, then it needs to be looked at.
Right. I mean, because I'd love to have a budget discussion with $5 million and how we can help police and corrections.
Mr. Swanson.
And just for clarification, can we put a note in there that we discuss this in 6 months after the tax is put in place as an agenda item?
Yeah.
Is that possible to do? I know, being new to the council rules and everything else, we have a different format that we have.
Are you talking about putting a note in the ballot language?
No. Just
Just a note
a
on the
note
office
that
calendar?
in 6 months, when we have the numbers that are coming that are solid, that this comes back as an item to be discussed during a meeting. That way, we can see what the numbers are, listen to what Councilman Brazel has said, and then move forward with that if you're.
Yeah, that or just discuss it at budget time. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah.
I don't know when budget time
November.
begins.
Just November?
November.
We can talk about it before then, though.
Yeah, you can bring up, you know.
Yeah, that's why I just wanted that way you have consensus now to have it on.
And
the agenda.
when does this start? Does it start January 1 of '24?
That's the reason, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sure.
That's the reason we brought it to you as quickly as we did without a lot of discussion. Because if we don't get it on in April, whether you decide to do it or not, if you, for some reason we don't do it in April, we would have had to wait an entire additional year. And even if we get it on in April, it's
October
not,
1, it's effective October.
it's not effective until October 1.
it's
So,
better than
so
January 1.
if we waited another year, it would have been a year and a half before we'd have collected a dime. That's why normally we spend more time on these things, and I apologize, but I didn't realize we were under the gun like that.
So that would just be a note for April of 2024 to have that as a tentative agenda item.
Right, take a look and see
Yeah, I
where
mean,
we...
I think you just, if the people don't want it, that's fine. I mean, I don't, this will be the first, if I sign this bill, it'll be the first tax increase that I've signed in 16 years, which I think all of us are proud of.
Right.
But again, what I've been saying is, if I said it before, I'm going to repeat it. When I've been asked, I said, listen, with these people who wanted to legalize marijuana, not one of them said that Missouri was going to be better off if more people smoked marijuana. They said people are smoking it now, and the problem is they're smoking it and they're not paying any taxes, while you and I, when we get our Budweiser or Jack Daniels, we pay a tax on it. So that they're basically inviting us to do this. It's a matter of treating it the same way as Mike, I think, suggested as a sin tax. If the voters don't want to do it, then they won't do it.
Is there any concern from anybody that if we had language in there that said it was supporting public safety, that it would, are we all convinced that it's gonna pass without that language? I mean, that's a question that, I mean, if you guys, I know Terry and I talked about it, it'd probably pass anyway, but does it help if we?
65% of our budget already goes to law enforcement, and I don't see that going down any. So, you're talking about an extra 15% on a particular fund. But, I mean, again, some of the biggest things we've got coming up are going to be in law enforcement. And if we continue to have some of the problems we've had the last 10 days with stolen cars and everything else, you know, we may want to use this money, all of it, for something like that. I don't know, or we may want to use all of it for the jail or for the sheriff's department. I mean, I just,
Or dispatch.
or dispatch, or whatever. I just, you know, usually in something like this, the only time you earmark it is if you think you need to earmark it in order to get the people to vote for it.
Right, I don't think we need to.
And otherwise, you're just tying our hands and you're making it more difficult for us to deal with a crisis.
I mean, we're gonna have budget discussions in November after, what, 2 months of receipt of the taxes. We can kind of get an idea how much it's gonna be, and then at that time, start looking at, you know, how can we help corrections and police, or whatever the
It
need
doesn't
is.
start until October, right?
It's in October, but he's saying the
Following budget discussions.
sorry.
have a month worth of experience, at least.
Yeah.
And 2 months before you pass the budget.
Well, let me just throw in here that on the sales tax remittances we get from the state, there's a 2-month lag. So October sales tax we would get in December. So
Which is still
We
before
won't
the
know
vote.
yet.
it would be before your final vote on the budget that we would get the first month's report.
So I guess you need to make a motion to put your substitute bill
Yeah,
on?
I wanted to make
Yes.
sure everybody was finished. So
Okay.
I would move that we call the question then on the substitute bill.
Okay,
Second.
okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Okay.
And so you
Still
just,
bossy
you just approved the substitution.
So we now have approved the substitute bill, and now we'll vote on the substitute
correct.
bill.
Yeah, vote on the
Okay,
substitute.
roll call vote.
Yeah.
Okay.
Call substitute bill number 5133, an ordinance providing for the authorization of an additional sales tax in an amount of 3% on retail sales of adult-use recreational marijuana to be placed on the April 4th, 2023 ballot for a vote of the people. Councilmember Swanson?
Yes.
Councilmember Brazel?
Yes.
Councilmember Elam?
Yeah.
Councilmember Hollander?
Yes.
Councilmember Hammond? Councilmember Schneider?
Yes.
Councilmember Baker?
Yes.
Okay.
I got a
That
question, Carrie.
measure passes, and that will be given to the county executive to sign, and then it will be on the ballot in April. Is that
And if
correct?
you sign it first, I'll sign it today.
Okay. All right.
Terry, can I have a question?
Sure.
Joanne, do we have people in county jail that arrested for marijuana now? I mean, and if we do they get released?
I don't think there's anybody in the jail. Is there just a marijuana charge?
People
No.
don't go to jail for that.
Unless they're dealing large quantities,
Right.
that's perfectly possible. I
Oh,
should
yeah,
know.
I don't, I guess I'm naive, I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I see
You don't get
those
arrested
in
for
the morning
joints anymore, I
reports
guess.
that, you know, but it's usually they've got fentanyl and meth on them.
Yeah, okay, I was just
I mean,
curious.
these are road guys, they can tell you, they run into a lot more meth and fentanyl than they do people with large quantities of marijuana.
Okay.
All right. Do I have any other announcements, anything else?
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. We are adjourned. Thank you, folks, for coming.
Yeah.